Hello everyone, welcome back to Xcoding with Alfian. In this video, we're going to add widget to an existing SwiftUI 3 News app for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS targets. If you haven't seen and interested to learn on building the SwiftUI News app from scratch for all Apple platforms, I've provided the link to the playlist at the description. Let me show you the widgets that we'll build. Here, I have my iPhone with the SwiftUI News app installed. Let me toggle the edit mode and tap the Add Widget button at the top left side. Let me search SwiftUI News from the widget gallery search bar. For iPhone, there are 3 family sizes that we can select: small, medium, and large. Let me select the medium one and large one. The widget is using intent configuration. In this case, the user can edit the widget and select different category for the parameter. Let's try to select entertainment for the medium and technology for the large one. Looks nice. Now, let me show you the widget on iPadOS. Here, I have my iPad mini 6. Let me add the widget from the widget library. For the iPadOS 15, we will support the new extra large size widget, so we can display more content on iPadOS home screen. Finally, let me show you the macOS 12 app. Let me search and add the widget small one, medium one, and the large one. Wow, looks nice. That's it for the quick demonstration of the final widget that we'll build. Before we begin, please download the starter project from the GitHub repository at the description. Open folder, add widgets to the iOS and macOS targets. Click starter and open the Xcode project in Xcode 13. Let's start and begin to code. For the first task, we'll create the widget extension target for both iOS and macOS targets. So from the menu bar, click File and then select New and then select Target. And select iOS from this tab and search for widget. Select widget extension. For the product name, give the name of SwiftUI News iOS widget. And make sure this include configuration intent is selected and the SwiftUI News selected as for the embed in application. So basically, when this include configuration intent is selected, Xcode will generate an intent definition file which we can use to create a custom intent as well as custom parameter type. We'll configure this later. So finally, click Finish and then activate the scheme. Let's do the same for the macOS widget. Select File, New, Target, and select macOS from this tab and search for widget. Select widget extension. For the product name, give the name of SwiftUI News Mac widget. And make sure this include configuration checkbox is also selected and the SwiftUI News Mac is selected for the embed in application. Finally, click Finish. And also activate the scheme. So Xcode has created these 2 folders for us, each for the iOS widget target as well as the Mac widget target. It also creates 2 schemes, the SwiftUI News Mac widget extension and the SwiftUI News iOS widget extension. So that's basically it for this first task to create the widget targets. Let's move on to the next task. For the second task, we'll add current source code shared target membership for the existing models and API service used in the main app. From the project navigator, expand this Action News shared folder, expand the API folder and the models folder, and we need to select multiple files. To do that, you can hold the command key while selecting the file. First one is this news.json. Let's unselect this. Okay, news.json and news API.swift and article model, news API response, category, as well as the category articles.swift. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 files. Now expand this right sidebar to reveal the identity inspector and add the checkbox for the Axia News iOS widget extension as well as the Axia News Mac widget extension. Okay, we have added the shared target membership for these files, so we're able to use it in both of the targets. Now let's try to build to check if there are any build time errors. Let's change the scheme to Axia News and then press Command B. Try to build. Okay, the build succeeded. That's it for this task. Let's move on to the next task. Okay, for this task, we'll create the custom select category intent and category param using the intent definition file editor. Currently, we have two of these intent definition file, each for the iOS and macOS widget target. We only need one of these, and we can enable the shared target membership to target both of the target. And we can enable the shared target membership for both of the widget targets. So let's delete the one in the Mac. Select this Axia News Mac widget intent definition, the one with the purple color icon. Delete this. Okay. And at the root of the project navigator, create a new folder, give it a name of Axia News Widget Shared. So basically, this folder contains all the shared source files that will be used for both the macOS and iOS widget targets. Select this Axia News iOS widget intent definition file, drag it to the Axia News widget shared folder. Okay, and select this. Make sure the Axia News widget and Axia News Mac widget extension are selected in the target membership. Okay, now let's rename this to a more generic name, which is Axia News Widget. Okay, now we have this, and we have selected the target membership for both of the widget targets. Now let's create the custom parameter for the intent. Click on this plus button at the bottom and select new enum. Rename it as category intent param. And for the cases, let's use the same cases that we are currently using in the man app. Okay, so let's create the cases. First one is general, and then business, technology, entertainment, sports, science, and finally health. Okay, let's close this category enum. Now we have this category intent param. Let's create the custom intent. Uh, Click on this plus button at the bottom and select new intent. Give it a name of select category. And for the category, let's change this to view. And for the title, let it be the select category. For description, let's add select news category. to fetch, to display, maybe it's a bit better for the user. And uncheck this configurable in shortcuts and suggestions, as this custom intent is going to be supported only in the widgets. So check this intent is eligible for widgets. Okay, now click on this plus button inside the parameter section, give it a name of category, and change the type to category intent param enum, and uncheck this resolvable, as we already provide a predefined cases. We are not providing the values dynamically. This resolvable is useful if you have a dynamic value, which maybe you can get for a fetch from the remote server and provide it to the user. You can watch the last year video where I built a COVID-19 stats widget using this resolvable values to fetch all the countries. I've provided the link at the description. Okay, we have created the custom select category intent as well as the category intent param enum. Now let's try to build the project. Make sure there are no errors. Okay, the build succeeded. That's it for this task. Let's move on to the next task. For this task, let's create a model to represent the widget UI. There are two possible internal states for this model. First one is when the article data exists. Second one, in case the article data is not available. When the article exists, we'll show the title, description, and image. In case it doesn't, we'll show a redacted placeholder text as you can see here in the screenshot. Now let's begin by creating a new folder inside the SwiftUI News Widget shared folder. Give it a name of models. This will contain all the model files that we'll created alongside in this tutorial. And let's create a new Swift file. Give it a name of article widget model. Okay. For the targets, let's uncheck the SwiftUI News and the SwiftUI News Mac, and make sure these both widget extension targets are selected, both for iOS and macOS. And then finally, click create. Okay. Now let's declare a struct. Give it a name of article widget model. Make it conform to the identifiable protocol. So we can use this in the SwiftUI view for each or list. And let's declare an enum, internal enum, name state. For the first case, let's give it a name of placeholder. For the second case, when the article exists, give it a name of article and provide two associated values. First one is article with the type of article model. Second one is image data with the type of optional data. So basically, we're going to download the image data for each of the article, and in that process, the image might fail to download. So this will be optional. In that case, this will be nil. So you might be wondering, why don't we just download the image in the SwiftUI view passing the URL using the new async image view? So basically the answer to that, currently it's not possible to do any asynchronous operation inside the SwiftUI view for the widget target extension. Okay, that's it for this state. First one, let's declare the constant state with the type of this internal state. And next, let's declare a ID compute property with the type of UUID. Let's just use switch state. For the placeholder, let's just return a random generated UUID. And in the case of article case, return the article.id. This is also an UUID type. Let's just ignore the image data associated value. Okay. Now you may be wondering whether it's okay to return this randomly generated UID. I think for our use case, as we are going to run it in the widget, SwiftUI widget is not interactive, so it is okay to provide an unstable UID as the view will never get updated. It will just create a new view when the widget is refreshed using the refresh policy interval or manual reload from the main app. Next, let's create a second computer property given the name of title with the type of string. Let's use switch state. For the placeholder, let's just provide a placeholder text. This is a placeholder text for XCI News App. And for the article, we can grab the article.title property. Next one is the subtitle with the type of string. Let's also use switch state. For the placeholder, let's just use this same string that we use in the title. And for the article, we can use article.description text. Let's ignore the image data. Okay, next one is the URL. This will be used in the widget Deeplink later. Give it a type of URL. Let's also use switch state. In case of placeholder, let's just return a placeholder URL string. XCI News App as the scheme, and the path it will be home. And for the article, let's just return article.article URL. Let's ignore the image data. And next, let's make this force unwrap. And next, let's declare a is placeholder computed property. It's a boolean. Here, if the case is placeholder for the state equal to state, we're going to return true. Else, we just return false. Next one is article. This is an optional article. We can just use if case article, grab the associated value equal to state. We're going to return the article. Else we return nil. Let's also declare image data. This is an optional data. If case article, grab the image data equal to state, return the image data as return nil. Okay. Yes, I think this is all the properties. Oh, sorry, this is a typo. This should be image data. Let's try to build. Okay, the build succeeded. Next, let's create another model to represent the timeline entry for the intent timeline provider. Create another Swift file inside the models folder. Give it a name of article entry. Okay, make sure these both two widgets are selected as the targets. Let's import widgetkit and declare a struct. Give it a name of article entry and make it conform to the timeline entry. So this is basically a type that specifies the date to display a widget and optionally indicates the current relevance of the widget itself. And let's declare another internal enum state. There are two possible states. First one, in the case of failure with the associated value of error. This will be occurred when the news API returns 400 or when we fail to fetch the articles. So for the next case, we have the articles containing article widget model as the associated value. So when the news API returns 200, we're going to provide the array of article widget model. In case the articles are empty, we just provide a array of placeholder article widget model. Okay, that's it for the state. Internal state enum. Backslash declare the date. This is required. And then let's just declare the state as the constant. The type of this is the state, this internal state, and category. This is the category enum. And this is it for the article entry. Let's try to build first. Okay, the build succeeded. Next, let's create the extension for the category. Give it a name of category plus intent. So basically here we want to create an extension for category where we're going to create a initializer that accepts the category intent param as the parameter and then map that category intent param case to the category enum. So let's declare an extension here, category, and then create an init. Give it a name category intent param. The type is category intent param. This is the generated enum from the intent definition file. Here we can just switch on the category intent param. First, let's provide a unknown case in case the user haven't selected the category. We just set the self as general. And next, let's handle the cases for general. Let's set self as general. In case of business and entertainment, technology, sports, science, and finally health. These are all the categories. Okay, now let's clean this bit. Let's try to build this. Okay, there's one error. Okay, this should be a colon instead of equal. Okay, the build succeeded. Now we're able to map the category intent param to the category enum. That's it for this task. Let's move on to the next task. For the next task, we'll create some stubs data to help us when developing the views. We should be able to inject these stubs in the SwiftUI Live Preview as we build the UI. The article model has already provided array of stubs data. Let's take a look. So here we have the extension of article and we have this static var preview data. So basically this loads the JSON from the bundle, this news.json file, and then it's going to decode that into array of article. Okay, now we need to also stop the image, and for that we can provide our own image placeholder both inside the Xcode News iOS widget and Xcode News Mac widget extension. So click on these assets inside the Xcode News widget folder and then create a new image set. Give it a name of placeholder. And then here I have my own image. Let me drag this to the 2x. Let's do the same for the Xcode News Mac widget XC assets. Create a new image set, give it a name of placeholder, and then drag this to the 2x section. Okay, now we have the image placeholder. So inside this models folder in the SwiftUI News Widget shared, create a new Swift file, give it a name of stop. So let's begin by using conditional compilation. If OS is iOS, we're going to import UIKit, and then else if OS is macOS, we're going to import AppKit. Why do we need to do this conditional import? Basically, as we are going to stop the image data, the implementation of image is different between iOS and macOS. In iOS, it is using UI image, and on macOS, it is using NS image. So to avoid any build time errors, we need to use this conditional compilation. Okay, now let's begin by creating an extension for the article widget model. Let's begin by declaring static var stop image data with the type of data. Here, let's use the conditional compilation if OS, macOS, then else. So if the OS is macOS, we can just initialize NS image name. We can pass the placeholder image set that we added in the exe assets. And then let's just force unwrap this. And then to convert this to data, we can use this div representation property. Let's also force unwrap this. And for the macOS, we can use the UI image name placeholder. Let's also force unwrap this. And for iOS, we can convert this to data using this JPEG data, passing the compression quality. In this case, let's just pass 0.7. Okay, that's for the iOS. Let's change this to the SwiftUI News, the iOS scheme. Okay, we also need to force unwrap this. Okay, that's it for the stop image data. Let's try to build first. Okay, the build succeeded. Next, we're going to declare the static var for stop article with image data. So this will be article widget model. It's the type. And then we can just initialize it with the article case state. For the article, we can just use the article.preview data. And let's get the first element using the index 0 as the subscript. For the image data, we can just use the article widget model dot stop image data that we have created before. Okay, next let's declare the stubs, static var stubs. This is an article widget model array as the type. And then here we can just use article.preview data. This is an array of article stub. And then let's map this. Okay, the parameter name is article and the return time is article widget model. Okay, so basically here we can just init with the case of article. We can pass the article and we can pass the article widget model dot stop image data. Sorry, let me fix this. It should be in here. Okay, let's try to build. Okay, the build succeeded. Let's continue. Next, let's have a static var of placeholders, the article widget model with the placeholder state. And let's declare a static var placeholders with the type of article widget model array. Here we're going to return 5 element of array containing the placeholder. So we can use the Swift half range operator between 0 and 5 and then invoke map. We can ignore the parameter and the return type is article widget model. Here we can just init the article widget model with the placeholder state. Okay, these are all the steps for the article widget model. Next, let's move on to the article entry steps. Declare the extension for article entry. The first one is the placeholder with the type of article entry. Here we can just initialize article entry. For the date, we can pass the current date. For the state, we can pass articles. And for the article widget model, we can pass article widget model dot placeholders. For the category, let's pass entertainment. Next, we have the static var stub articles. Okay, with the type of article entry, let's copy this, paste it, and then replace these articles associated value with article widget model that stubs. Let's change the category to general. Okay, these are all the steps that we'll require to build the view, the SwiftUI Live preview. Okay, that's it for this task. Let's move on to the next task. For the next task, we'll create the intent timeline provider to fetch the articles from News API, as well as downloading the image data in parallel. This provider is responsible for providing the widget with the timeline entries, as well as refreshing the widget using the interval policy. So inside the SwiftUI News Widget shared, let's create a Swift file, give it a name of article provider. Okay, now let's import widgetkit and let's declare a struct with the name of article provider that implements this intent timeline provider. This is a type that advises widgetkit when to update a user configurable widget display. Okay, so this intent timeline provider has two associated type, the entry and the intent. So let's provide it. For the entry, the type will be the article entry, and for the intent, the type will be the select category intent generated type. Okay, now we have this two tab alias. Before we continue, let's create a helper private methods that will help us to fetch the data from a News API as well as downloading each of the image data in parallel. Okay, so first let's declare a private func fetch image data with the parameter of article model. Let's make this as an async function using this async keyword after the parameters. And the return type is article widget model. Okay, let's use guard on the URL here, article dot image URL. This is optional, so let's just use guard let here, and then let's declare this let data response tuple, and we can use the URL session. But before that, I forgot. I think we show at the News API instance first, the shared singleton instance, and then the URL session. We can use URL session dot shared instance. So this news API provide public APIs to fetch articles given a category. And here we can use try optional, and then we can use this new URL session async data from the URL. Okay, we need to prefix this with await, and then this is also throwing. Let's just use optional. Then continuing on, let's get the HTTP response. Here we can cast the response as HTTP URL response and verify whether the status code equals to 200. Okay, so in the else block, we can just return the article widget model, passing the article state. In this case, the article is this article from the parameter, and the image data will be nil. Okay, continuing on, we can just uh, return the article widget model by initializing it with the article state, passing the article and the data that is downloaded from this URL session. Okay, this is the single method to fetch an image given an article, the parameter. Next, let's create the second method, private func get articles for category with the type of category enum. Let's also make this async and throwing. And the return type is article widget model array. So first, we're going to fetch the article from the news API. Let's declare constant articles and then use try await news API dot fetch from category. Let's pass the category for the page. Let's just use the default first page. And for the page size, let's pass 5. As our extra large size widget will only support maximum up to 5 articles to display. Okay, now we have the articles array. Our next task is to fetch each of the image for the article, and we should do it in parallel. And I think the new C5.5 task group is a perfect solution for that. Okay, let's just declare this return try await, and let's declare with throwing task group of for the type of child task result. It's going to be article widget model dot self. Okay, and let's provide the closure here. Okay, inside the closure, let's loop the article using for loops, and then let's invoke group dot add task, and then for each of the child task, let's just invoke await fetch image data from the article. Okay, this will fetch the image data and then return the article widget model. Continuing on, let's declare an array to store the results. Article widget model. This should be an empty array. Next, we're going to use the new C5.5 async sequence to fetch the articles in parallel. And we can just use this for try await result in group. And then inside, we can just append the downloaded image with the associated with the article. So basically, as this is happen in parallel, the results of this will be the order will be randomized, right? We don't know which which image will be downloaded first. So we need to fix it, the sorting using the results sorted at results dot sorted, And then in this case, we can just use this article publish at, and as this article is optional, let's just provide a default date here. And then let's make this ascending using this greater than the $1 article dot publish at. Let's also provide a default value of current date. Okay, that's it for the get articles method. We have successfully downloaded the article and then download the image for each article in parallel. Okay, isn't it great, this throwing task group API? And then next, let's declare another private func get article entry for category. The type is category enum, and this is also an async function with the return type of article entry. Here, let's just declare an entry, article entry, and then use a do try catch block, and then return entry at the last. Okay, so in the do block, we should declare constant name articles and then invoke try wait get articles passing the category. So we invoke this function. Okay, and then let's set the entry as, we need to use ternary operator here. Check if the article is empty, we return the placeholder. Okay, this is an array containing 5 article widget model with state plus of. This is an array that contains 5 placeholder article widget model state, and then else we just need to init the article widget model passing the current date, and the state will be articles. We can pass the articles here. In fact, for the category, let's pass category. Okay, that's it for the entry in the do block. Next, in the catch block, in case it is throwing an error, we can initialize a current date. Then in the catch block where it throws an error, we can initialize an entry with current date, set the state as failure, passing the error, and as well as the category. Okay, that's it for all the private helper methods. Now let's implement the required methods for the Anton timeline provider protocol. Okay, so the first one will be placeholder in context. Here, let's just return a placeholder article entry. And the second one is get snapshot for configuration in context. Here we can simply switch to the async context. As you can see here, this is not a synchronous function, so it runs in sync context. And as you can see here, this all of these helper methods is async. We can switch using the task initializer. And then let's just declare entry and then invoke wait get article entry passing the category. But before that, we need to convert this category intent param to the category. You can retrieve it from the configuration.category. Okay. And finally, we can just invoke completion passing the article entry. Okay, for the next method, we have this get timeline method. This provides an array of timeline entries for the current time and optionally any future times to update the widget. But in our use case, we are going to only provide a single entry and then provide a refresh policy of 60 minutes. Okay, so let's do the same. Let's copy this. Okay, but instead of invoking completion entry, we need to declare a timeline here. and then initialize a timeline, passing the entries. Let's just pass an array containing the entry. And for the policy, there's reload policy for the widget. Let's pass this after date. Let's pass the current date and invoke adding time interval 60 seconds multiplied by 60. Okay, so this should be 60 minutes. And finally, we can invoke completion passing the timeline. Okay, that's it for our article timeline provider. Let's try to build, make sure there are no errors. Okay, the build succeeded. Now let's try to clean up a bit here inside the XCode News iOS widget. So basically, when Xcode generates the widget target, it also creates this skeleton provider, this and this simple entry. We don't need all of this. Let's just delete this. Okay. Let's also delete the prefix. We don't need it. And then let's change the intent as select category intent.self. And for the provider, it should be article provider. And for the view, let's just provide a text placeholder for now, so we can build successfully. Let's do the same for the XCN News Mac widget file. Let's delete all of these as well as the previews. Change the intent to the select category intent.self and the provider to the article provider. And for the view, let's just provide a placeholder for now. Okay, and now we can go to the intent definition file and remove this configuration intent that Xcode has generated for us. Okay, that's it for this task. Now let's move on to the next task where we're going to build the SwiftUI views for our widget. For this task, let's begin by building the article thumbnail view. It is a view that will be used across all the widget family sizes. The background of this view is an image. The title and description will be overlaid on top of the image. So from the Axion News Widget shared folder, create a new folder, give it a name of views, and then inside the views folder, create a new SwiftUI view, give it a name of image background view. Okay, and let's import widgetkit, and let's enable the SwiftUI live preview, selecting this canvas. Okay, make sure you select this Actionis as the scheme. And now let's declare the constant data. This should be an optional. And now let's update the previews. Declare a group and then declare the image background view. For the data, we can pass the article widget model that stop image data. And we need to add the preview context modifier passing widget preview context. For the family, let's just pass system small. So we'll have two views for the previews. The second one is for the case when the data is nil. So here let's pass nil. Okay. Let's try to resume this live preview. Okay, so first let's declare a private var image with the type of optional image. Here we need to use if let on the data. If it is not exist, we just return nil. If it is exist, we need to handle both for the iOS and macOS. So let's go back to stub and copy this conditional import again. Now let's check if OS is macOS. Else, so if the OS is macOS, we'll just use the if let image and then initialize the ns image, passing the data. And finally, if this succeeds, we can return the SwiftUI image, passing this ns image, initializing using this ns image parameter, passing the image instance. And then for iOS, we can use if let image ns UI image data. Okay, this is also an optional. In case it succeeded, we can just also initialize and save UI image using the UI image parameter, passing the image, the UI image instance. Okay, that's the private var image. Now let's move on to the body. Let's resume this first. Okay, there are no errors. So in the body, we can just use if let image exists, this image. We're going to use this image, SwiftUI image, and then let's add several modifiers. First, let's make this resizable, and then make this scale to fill, so it can fill the container view. Let's also set the layer priority as -1 and add the clip modifier. Okay, so in case the image is nil, the data is nil, let's just provide the background accent color. Okay, so the default accent color for iOS is this kind of blue tint. Okay, looks good for both the of the case where the image data exists and where it doesn't exist. That's it for the image background view. Okay, now we can move on to the article thumbnail view. So let's create the new SwiftUI view. Give it a name of article thumbnail view. Okay, so let's also import widgetkit and then declare a constant article with the type of article widget model and category with the type of category enum. Let's replace this previous with a group. Okay, so inside this group, let's declare a article thumbnail view. For the article, let's pass the stub article with image data. For category, you can just pass general. And then let's add the preview context modifier, passing widget preview context with the system family of small. Let's do it also for the medium and large size. Change this to medium, change this to large. Okay. Next, I want to also provide a preview for the placeholder article widget model state. So let's pass this again, and then let's replace this with the placeholders. And member of this. Okay, let's try article widget module, the placeholder. Okay, let's just init with the state placeholder. Okay, let's change this to medium for the placeholder. Okay, that's it for all the previews. Now let's move on to implement the body. Let's resume the live preview so we can see the UI as we build this. So let's begin by declaring a Z stack with the top leading alignment as the root view. And let's add a modifier to the Z stack, which is frame with the max width as infinity, max height as infinity, and alignment as top leading. And let's also handle the placeholder case using this redacted. Okay, here we need to use the ternary operator on article is placeholder. In case it's true, let's just return a placeholder redaction response. And then if not, let's just provide an init with the empty option set. Okay, now let's implement the view inside the Z stack. Let's begin by declaring the image background view, passing the data, which can pass article.image data. Okay, and then let's declare a color.black. Okay, this will be an overlay, and let's make it a bit of transparent, passing 0.35. Okay, and then at the top of the overlay, let's declare another v stack, set the alignment as leading, and let's declare a text, passing category the text, and set the line limit as 1, and set the font as sub headline, and let's add a spacer to push the additional label to the bottom. Let's declare text passing article dot title, and set the multi-line text alignment as leading, set the line limit as 4, and set the font as headline. Okay, now let's add the modifier to the fish tag. First is the foreground color for the text. Let's pass white, and then let's add padding for all the edges. Okay, let's see the results. Looks good for the small size, medium size, and the large size. And this is the placeholder state. It shows this rectangle on top of the label, the text. Looks good. Okay, that's it for the article thumbnail view. Let's move on to build the next view. Next, let's move on to create the article group view. It is basically rows of articles contained inside a vertical stack. Each row has a thumbnail image, title, and description text. This will be used in large and extra large widget. As the widget itself is not scrollable, we won't be able to use scroll view to embed the v step. Basically, we need to provide fixed number of articles depending on the size. For large, we'll provide 2, and for extra large, we provide up to 4. We also need to distribute the height of each row equally inside the v step. So let's create a new SwiftUI view inside the views folder. Give it a name of article group view, and then let's import widgetkit first, and let's declare the constant, which is articles with the type of article widget model array. Okay, and now let's configure the previews. Let's declare a group and declare article group view. For the articles, let's pass the article widget model that Stubs, and let's pass the preview context modifier, widget preview context, passing system medium. Let's do the same for the system large. Let's also provide the one for the placeholders preview. Okay, let's change this to system large. Okay, so basically here for the system medium, we want to provide maximum of two elements in the array. So we can use this prefix upTo, passing to, and as this returns an array slice, we need to initialize this into an array. Okay, and for the system large, let's prefix it up to 4 elements and also initialize this inside an array. And for the prefix, we can pass the placeholders prefix up to 2, as this is using the system medium size. Wrap this inside the article initializer. Okay, now we created all the previews. Let's move on to implement the article group view body. So for the root view, let's declare a v stack with leading alignment and spacing of 0. Let's also add a horizontal padding. And here, let's just use for each, passing the articles and inside the view provider. So let's also encapsulate each row inside a separate view. Let me declare article row view, and with a constant of article, with a type of article widget model. Okay, and let's just declare each stack here, and let's declare this article row view inside this for each view closure. Can pass the article here, but actually we want to make this article row view to be embedded inside a link, so we can have a deep link. So we can use link, passing the destination. For the URL, we can just pass article.url, and inside the view provider, we can declare the article row view, passing the article. Okay, now let's set the frame of this article row view, passing max width as infinity and max height as infinity. Okay, this will make each of the article row view equally sized inside the vstack. Now let's add a divider if the article is not the last article in the list. We can use it. We can use articles.last.id, and then if it is not equal to the article, the current article.id, we add a divider and set the frame with the height of 0.5. Okay. Now let's resume the live preview. Okay, we have the live preview now. Let's implement the article row view. So inside the h tag, let's use if let on the image data, article.image data. So if this exists, we just declare image background view, passing the image data, and let's set the frame width as 50 and height as 50. Okay, now let's also add a corner radius of 8 and make this clip. Next, let's declare a vstack with the alignment of leading and spacing of 4. Okay, inside this vstack, let's declare a text passing article.title, set the line limit as 1 and the font as caption. Below the title, let's declare our text article.subtitle, set the line limit as 2 and font as subheadline and with additional weight of semi-bold. Okay, now we have this image and vstack inside the hstack. Now let's add the redacted modifier in case this is a placeholder. Okay, so if the article is placeholder, we just return a placeholder. Not, we initialize a empty option set. Okay, let's wait for the preview. Looks like there's an issue with the preview. Let's try again. Looks like there's an error here. Fails to render the preview. Let me try again. Okay, now the preview is successfully rendered. So we have this medium size, large size, and the one with the placeholder in medium size. That's it for this article group view. Now we can move to implement the article entry widget view. That will be the main entry point for the widget. Okay, now the tabs are getting crowded here. Let me close several of the tabs that we don't use, maybe all of them. Okay, now let's implement the article entry widget view. Create a new SwiftUI view inside the views folder. Give it a name of article entry widget view. Okay, but before this, I want to fix some issues regarding the live preview. Actually, the last time when we are working on the article group view, the preview updates is very slow, right? So I think this happened because we are using these stubs, right, for every view. So let's solve this. So basically, when we invoke this, it will load the data from the JSON and decode it. It will do this 3 times in this case. So let's just put this into a static let stubs and then initialize it once and then assign it to each of the view in the preview. Stubs. I think this should make the live preview faster. To avoid any updating took longer than 5 seconds error. I think for placeholders it is okay. It is not loading anything from JSON. Let's try to resume this. Okay, now it loads almost instantaneously. Let's also fix this for the article thumbnail view. Let's declare a static let stub and assign it with the article widget model stub article with image data. Let's just assign this stub for every view that use this stub. Okay, let's try to resume. Okay, build succeeded. Let's go back to the article entry widget view. First, let's import widgetkit and then let's declare the dependency here. First, we have the entry and the type is article entry. And then next we have the to declare environment property wrapper passing the key path of widget family. Make this private var, give the name of widget family. And let's replace this preview with group. And let's declare the R. First, let's declare a static. Let's stop here. We're going to use article entry dot stop articles with the name of stubs. And then let's declare the article entry widget view. For the entry, you can just this stubs. And then let's set the preview context as widget preview context, passing family of system small. Let's do this for all the sizes: medium, large, extra large. Change this to medium, change this to system large, and change this to system extra large. Okay. And for extra large, we need to add additional condition compilation only for iOS, as the extra large size is not available on macOS. Let's copy this and then paste this, and then change this to placeholder. So we can also preview the placeholder state. Okay, now let's try to resume the live preview. Hope it is working. Okay, it loads almost instantaneously. Now let's work on the body. Let's begin by declaring a switch, passing entry dot state. This is the state of the article entry. There are two possible cases. First one is failure. Let's get the error, and then let's just print a error dot localize description. Okay. Now let's handle the articles case. Let's grab the articles associated value. And then here we need to switch on the widget family. Let's provide a default value of empty view. And then here for the first case, it will be system small and system medium. Okay, for these two sizes, let's declare an article thumbnail view. And for the article, let's pass the first articles using this articles, and then get the first element using the index 0. And let's pass the category. And let's also add the modifier widget URL, passing articles 0.url. Let's try to resume this to see the results in the live preview. Okay, the small and medium size widget looks good. Let's move on to implement the large size widget. To do that, let's declare another view, article entry widget large view. Here we just need to declare the constant with the article widget model array as a type, and pass the category as well, the category enum. And let's implement the body. So in the body, we're going to use a fish tag to show article thumbnail image and two articles inside the article group view. So let's declare fish tag Set the alignment as leading and spacing of 0. Let's set the frame max width as infinity, max height as infinity, and alignment as top leading. Okay, now let's inside the vstack. Okay, now inside the vstack, let's declare a link with the destination. Here we want to provide the article's first element URL. Let's just pass 0 here, and then set the URL here. And then for the view provider, let's declare article thumbnail view, passing the first article in the array as well as the category. Let's set the frame max width as infinity and max height as infinity. Let's also add the clip modifier. Declare the article group view. And for the articles array, we will drop the first element because we already displayed here, and we are going to show the element from index 1 up to index 2. So to do that, we can just use articles drop first, and then invoke prefix up to 3, and then make sure to wrap this in array because this is an array slice. Okay, now let's also set the frame max width as infinity and max height as infinity. Okay, this will make these two view equally sized inside this vstack. Now let's try to navigate back to this switch widget family, add additional case here. For the system large, here we can declare article widget. What's the name of this? Article entry widget large view. And then we can pass the articles array as well as the entry dot category. Now let's try to resume the live preview. Okay, it looks good on the large size system firmware size. Now let's move on to implement the extra large view. So actually we can just copy all of this because the layout will be the same, but instead of using vstack, we're going to use hstack. Okay, let's remove all the parameters, and in here we want to set the elements up to 5. Okay, now we need to rename this as extra large view. Okay, next we need to handle this for the extra large case. Let's pass the articles as well as the entry dot category, and then click resume on the live preview. Wow, nice, looks good. And for the extra large size widget, this is only available when you run it on the iPadOS. Okay, this is the placeholder for the small, medium, large, and extra large. Wow, they look good. That's it for this task for implementing the SwiftUI view for the widget extension. So before we build and run the widget in the simulator, let's navigate to the SwiftUI News App.swift. This is the main app for the iOS target. It has the UI application delegate adapter in here, and we have implemented the custom app delegate. So basically here, let's import widgetkit, and inside the application did finish launching with options. We need to call widget center.shared.reload all timelines. This will reload the widget when the user launches the app without waiting for the refresh interval policy. Remember that Apple provides limited daily quota for refreshing the widget in background in case we set the refresh interval to aggressive. In case the daily quota has been exhausted, this reload will help us to refresh the widget when the user launches the app, as refreshing the widget from the app will not hit the daily quota. Let's do the same for the macOS app. We can navigate to the Xcode News Mac app.swift, Xcode News Mac app.swift. Okay, this one. And here, this is the, I think we need to implement application with finish launching. Okay, so here we can also import widgetkit and then invoke widgetCenter.shared.reload all timelines. Okay, these are the requirements that needed before we run the app. And also make sure to provide your own API key for the news API, which you can get from the newsapi.org by registering. They provide a 100 limited daily quota for the free developer account. Okay, and after you get the API key, navigate to the news API.swift and put it inside the API key constant. Okay, next, one final thing before we run this, navigate to the Axion News Mac widget here in the project navigator, and here we'll need to, in this app sandbox, let's enable these outgoing connections for client for the network. So if we're not enabling this, we won't be able to fetch the data from the news API when the widget runs on macOS. Before we can run this widget, there are actually several things that I forgot to add. So let's fix that. And first, let's navigate to the Axion this iOS widget. First, we need to replace this placeholder text with the actual article entry widget view, passing the entry. This is the main entry point for the widget extension target. Let's do the same for the Mac. Okay, and let's go back to the intent definition file. So actually, to make this work, we also need to check the target membership for the main app, Axion News, and the Axion News map. Okay, now let's build and run. Okay, now the app runs. Let me toggle the edit mode and tap on this plus button at the top left screen. And I'm not seeing Axion News, so let's try to delete this first and reinstall. This usually happen. Okay, let me allow this. Let's go back to the home screen and tap on the widget gallery. There it is, the Axion News. Okay, these are all the widget, the small one, medium one, large one, and the extra large one. Let's add the large one. Also, let's add a medium one. Okay, it shows the same top headlines category. Let's update this. Let's edit this and select edit widget. Okay, there's a category selection here that we can select. So let me select technology. Okay, nice. It updates the widget and fetch the articles related to the technology. Okay, so now it is successfully working on the iPadOS and iOS target. Now we need to test this using the macOS 12. But to do that, you need to have Xcode 13 beta 5 installed, or and you also need to run macOS 12 beta. So I think Apple will release the next Xcode 13 GM next week after the 18th October event. So basically, the current Xcode 13 release doesn't provide the macOS 12 SDK. So okay, so let me open the app in the Xcode 13 beta 5. Let me try to build. There are so many errors regarding the concurrency is not available. Okay, I think we need to set the deployment target in here. So let's go to this SwiftUI News Map widget and then go to the build setting and search for version, and let's change the macOS deployment target to macOS 12.0. Okay, now let's try to build again. Okay, the build succeeded. Now let's build and run the Mac app. Okay, the app runs now. And let's add a widget from the notification center here. Select edit widgets and select SwiftUI News. Okay, we have three sizes of widgets. Let's add the large one as well as the medium one. Okay, looks good. We can also edit this. Let's change the category to entertainment. Okay, the content of the widget is updated, fetching the articles from entertainment category. Okay, the widget works on macOS 12. Let me close this Xcode 13 beta. For the final task, we are going to handle Deeplink from the widget inside the main app. Let's begin from the iOS app. So first, I want to navigate to the articles view to explain something. So currently on iOS, we have implemented this on receive notification center publisher on continue user activity inside this article list view. So actually we have implemented this when building the watchOS app in part 4 of the series to send the article URL from watchOS to iPhone using the watch connectivity framework as well as the handoff. Actually, this approach is not correct as we should not handle this external events lifecycle from the nested view as it can cause undefined behavior of the SwiftUI lifecycle. We should handle this at the root container view. Also, on iPadOS, this can cause a model. Also on iPadOS, this can cause crash as the model sheet already presented. Because in iPadOS, we have a sidebar containing instance of article list view for each of the menu item. We need to also move the sheet presentation to the root content view. To fix these issues, let's navigate to the SwiftUI News App.swift. First, we need to define the global environment value for the selected article URL binding. With this, we can pass the environment from the root content view. The nested article list view is able to declare this environment property wrapper to get this value from the parent. When an article is selected from the list, we can update this binding to present the sheet modally from the root content view. So let's implement this inside this below this SwiftUI News app. Let's declare a struct, give the name of selected article list URL key with that conform to the environment key protocol. We need to declare static var default value And for the value, let's give it a type of binding of URL optional and assign it with constant of nil. Okay, now we have the environment key for this. Let's create an extension for the environment values, and let's declare the property selected article URL and with the type of binding URL optional. For the getter, we can just use self and pass the selected article URL key.self to the subscript. And for the setter, we can use the same self equal to the new value. Okay, we have this global environment value. Now let's declare a state inside the SwiftUI News app with the name of selected article URL. The type is optional with the default value of nil. Okay. Now, before we attach the modifiers, we need to create several helper methods. First one is handle receive notification with the type of notification. Here we can just use iflat notification.userinfo. This is optional. The key is URL. Then cast this as URL. Then we can just assign the selected article URL state with the URL. Next, for the user activity, create a method private func handle continue user activity. The parameter is ns user activity. Let's grab the URL string first from user activity dot user info. This is optional. And for the key, it is activity URL key. We need to cast this as string containing n, which let's initialize a URL using the string. Okay, if this succeeds, we can just assign the selected article URL with the URL. Okay, now let's add the modifier. First one is on receive notification center dot default publisher for article send notification. This is used in the watchOS connectivity. And then for the perform, we can pass the handle on receive notification method. Okay, that is it for this on receive notification publisher. Next one is on continue user activity. And for the activity type is you can pass this constant activity type view key. This is for handoff. And we can pass handle on continue user activity method. Okay. Next, for handling opening the Deeplink widget, we can use on open URL. It's going to pass on URL. Here we can just assign the selected article URL with the URL. Okay. Finally, we are going to show a model sheet presentation using this item binding. We can pass selected article URL binding using this $prefix. We don't need the on dismiss. And for the view provider, let's declare a Safari view. For the URL, we can pass $0, and let's add edges ignoring self area passing bottom. And let's set an explicit ID of URL. Okay, now let's try to build this first. Okay, the build succeeded. Now we need to inject the environment here, passing the selected article URL so it can be propagated to the nested views, the child views. Here we pass the binding of selected article URL. Okay, now Let's go to the article list view to clean. Let's go to the declaration of this state, private var, change this to environment, and this should be article URL. Selected article URL key path, and the type, we don't need to specify the type. This is a binding. And let's just remove all of this as we already handled this at the root level of the app. And let's find the method where it assigns the article URL. Let's use wrap value as this is binding. And then this one, handle tab gesture. Let's also use wrap value in here. Now let's try to build. Okay, the build succeeded. We need to try it using the simulator. Let me select iPad Pro and build and run. Okay, let me go back to this home screen. Let me tap on this article. Okay, it opens the model sheet presentation showing the article URL in Safari. Let me go back, select another article. Okay, it dismisses that one and then open the new article, select that. Let's try one more time, this one. Okay, nice, it works as expected. Let's also try to select the article from list. Okay, works, there are no regressions. Okay, so we have successfully implemented widget deeplink handling correctly for the SwiftUI iOS app. Now let's move on to the macOS target. Let me close this and close this as well, because we need to switch to the Xcode 13 beta. Let me open the project inside the Xcode beta. Now let's navigate to the SwiftUI News Mac app.swift. So for the SwiftUI News Mac app, we handle this opening the Deeplink widget differently. So basically we just open the URL in Safari. To do that, we need to implement additional method here in the app delegate. So there's one method called application open URLs. This is passing an array of URL. Let's grab the first one, urls.first. So if this exists, we can also invoke the nsworkspace.shared.open passing the URL. This will open the Safari. But actually, currently there is some issue when opening the Deeplink, or as well as a kind of, it will always throw it will always open a new window of the app, which we don't want actually, right? So actually I found some way to limit the app to become a single window app. So basically here we can just add this handles external events matching. Here we can just pass an empty array. So this won't open any new window when it receives any external events. Now we also need to remove the new window from the menu bar. To do that, let's declare a command group replacing, and then pass the command group placement dot new item. And let's just provide a empty closure. Okay, let's try to build. Change the scheme first to the SwiftUI News Map. Let's run this. Okay, it launched. Now let's refill the notification center here. And let me try to tap on one of the widget. Nice. It opened Safari, passing the URL. Let's try another one, this one. Okay, it works successfully. So whenever we tap on the deep link from the widget, it doesn't open a new window. Nice, right? Congratulations, that's it for this video on building widgets for the news app. I really hope this video helps you all to implement widget in practical way so you can build your own widget for your own app. You can always download the completely started project if you have encounter any issue. The link to the GitHub repository is provided at the description. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you want to support me going forward on creating more content for this channel. So finally, I just want to say let's keep on being a lifelong learner and see you in the next one. Bye.